Welcome to my Accent is No Accident podcast. I'm your host, Maritza Perez. And our guest today is an adventurous woman with a professional career that stretches from many places, and starting with the U.S. Navy, serving as a nurse, going to corporate as a businesswoman, being a lawyer, speaking in litigation as a litigation consultant, to a storyteller, a speaker, educator, and podcaster. Her name is Diane Wyzga. For 30 years, Diane has been helping professionals take their story from a message only they could hear to the publishing world, the courtroom, hospitals, board meetings, and the airwaves. The stories that swayed juries, built markets, spread ideas, changed things. Today, Diane helps professionals, women, become successful origin story creators in the spirit of who they are, find the words they didn't know they had to connect with, engage, and enliven their audience to action while transforming their lives of the lives of those who they serve. Welcome, Diane. It is an honor to have you today with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maritza. I am honored to be here speaking with you and your listeners.
I am very happy. I wanted to ask you so many questions the first time that we met, but I am
Mhm.
very happy because now I have the opportunity to do it today.
Thank you. Yeah, this is going to be good.
Yes. So, Diane, let me ask you our first signature question. Diane, what is your accent and why is not an accident?
Wow, that's a great question. So, I am a Jersey girl. I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I come from Polish parents. They are second generation. So, all of my grandparents on both sides came over from Poland and ended up in Chicopee, Massachusetts, which is like the Ellis Island, but a little bit further north. And I am the oldest of seven, which explains that bio that you were reading, because anybody that's the eldest or the eldest daughter knows what it's like to learn responsibility at an early age. And so now I'm trying to undo some of that chronic responsibility. But I like being a Jersey girl. People give New Jersey a hard time, but that's the land of Bruce Springsteen and so many other wonderful actors. And when I go back there to be with my family, I begin to talk like I'm from the shore, and you hear it come out in the things that I say. And that's no accident. That is where I was born and raised, and it's where I am proud to say I come from. How's that? How's that?
I love it. I love that. And yes, indeed, there are many actors and rock bands and Bon Jovi's from New Jersey.
Bon Jovi, absolutely. Yes. Danny DeVito. Oh, yeah. Lots of good stuff there.
Yes, yes. So let's get a little more in depth in your story. So you serve in the U.S. Navy as a nurse, and then you move to corporate. How was these first years in the U.S. Navy as a nurse, and then moving? Tell us a little bit of this story.
That's a great question. My dad was a radioman in the World War II. He and his five brothers all served in the military. One of them was actually on a ship in Pearl Harbor during the bombing, and all of them came back home. My dad was the youngest, and technically he shouldn't have been able to get in to the Navy because he was not 18. But what the boys did back then is they put a piece of paper with the number 18 on it, and they stuck that in their shoe. And when they were asked if they were over 18, they could say truthfully, Yes, I am. So that's how my dad got in. And all my life, there was just something about that, the notion of military service, the notion that an entire family went and all of them came back safely. So when I had the opportunity after I graduated from college with my nursing degree, I really wanted to do something different. And the idea of different was obvious. It was the Navy. I applied and I was accepted and went to Naval Officer Training School, which was off of Narragansett Bay in Rhode Island during one of the coldest winters ever. And we're all walking around in, in pantyhose in our uniforms. But
Right.
I really do say that those 3 years that I served as a Navy nurse and I was stationed in Portsmouth, Virginia, um, I worked with surgical pediatrics for the first 2 years, medical pediatrics for the last year. Those were really formative years for me and very, very special years because I was all of 21 years old. I mean, I was a baby.
Yeah.
And I walked into a situation where I was in charge of a 30-bed open ward because it's a great big ward, and there were beds down either side with curtains in between, and there was a 4-crib unit for babies, and there was also a 2-bed burn unit. So that's huge. I mean, that's just absolutely huge when you're coming into it, and you also were in command of the corps men and women, and then learning from the LPNs who had many more skills than I did as a nurse. But it is a treasured time for me because in part because of the notion of being in service to my country, but also seeing firsthand how it is that mothers held up the roof, as it were, for their families, because by and large it was the men who were deployed. And so watch them cope with the various illnesses and conditions for their children and what they did and how they had to do that. So that, I mean, I could go on and on and on and on
Yes.
about that. That time was wonderful. And the transition out into the corporate world was, looking back, I would say it was relatively easy because the military is based on discipline and chain of command, and everybody knows their place. I came out with that understanding. So moving into corporate, I was aware of that that the role that you play in corporate, that you're not going to be outspoken so much, and it's that I chafed against. I also chafed against it when I was in the Navy. Yeah. When we
Yeah.
get together, Maritza, and we sit down over a cup of coffee and a piece of pie, I will tell you those. But I think I was chafing against being told what to do and how to do it, even though there was a logic to it.
Yeah.
And that informed me because I realized today, and as I was growing up, that I don't like being told what to do, and I don't like being told how to do it. So I strongly value independence, although to my parents and my teachers, it probably looked like I was strong-headed. I
With
was spirited. What can I say?
yeah. So and I kind of like understand you, but I do identify with it
How so?
because I I come from a strict Catholic family, and I went to Catholic school, and today we make a joke is that the Catholic school prepares girls to be good wives and stay home. But in the time that I grew up, we wanted to be independent. And the
Hmm.
majority of my
Yeah.
classmates are like, no, we're not gonna do this. So I can tell you 99% are very independent, but it's not about rebellious about the release, about I have a choice.
Yes.
And
Yes. I was raised Catholic all the way through college, believe it or not. So I recognize what you're saying about the culture, the culture of the religion. And also, we grew up at different times. Well, each generation does, but the requirements of the various generations in our communities and our cultures and our families that say this is what you should be doing. This is as far as you can go. And the older that we get, we realize, and you're saying this about yourself, your friends, there is a spirit of independence that says, this is how I want to live. This is what I want to say. This is what I stand for. This is what I won't stand for. And those statements that we're saying to ourselves at some point in time informs who we are and how we live in the
Yeah.
world. So we are very connected in a lot of ways. We
Yeah.
might not have served in the Navy, but we understand
Yes.
the rules, the things that you chafe against that say, hey, this isn't how I want to do it. Mm-mm.
But at the same time, I cherish that time. And I cherish that time because I recognize that I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't have that. Because I would have seen I would have not been able to see the world the way I see it today.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, and I would agree with you. I am grateful to my parents that they raised me in their faith, because that's what they chose. And I am grateful for the Catholic school education I got all the way through college, because as you say, it showed me a way of being in the world. And so while I'm not following in those footsteps anymore, I recognize the values that those choices made for me, gave me. And so today I can thank, like today I do. Today I do thank my parents for the sacrifices that they had to go through in order for me and my six brothers and sisters to have the education that we've had. And like you say, the the point of view of the world. And when you say the way you're looking at the world, what way is that? What do you mean when you say that's what it brought you?
Well, the one thing is when you grow up as Catholic, you grow up knowing that everything is love. The world is
Mhm. Yeah.
everything is love. So when you become an adult, you realize that although everything is love, not everybody is lovely.
Oh, beautifully said. Yes.
So you realize that, wait, you're saying you're Catholic, but you do this. You're saying you are religious. Let's not just stay in one religion, but you're saying your religion. You are following your religious and your spiritual beliefs, but you
Mhm.
do all these other things that go against that belief system, and then you realize that there is a lack of love.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to me, and putting it in a sarcastic way, because we are very sarcastic, you probably are because you're from university, but in both people from Bogota, where I come from, we're sarcastic, and sarcastic as jokes. And it's like, I think you didn't get the memo when teaching you this. When they were teaching you this, you need to go back and repeat this lesson, because that's not what it meant. And
No.
today, I think that's what I see. I see my religion as like, no, that's not what it means.
Yeah.
It means we love absolutely everybody.
That sense of compassion, empathy, understanding, that that did not come easily to me. There was someone who said to me, a storytelling mentor said to me, some years back, and she was actually saying this about someone else. And she said, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I thought she was talking about me. And I took it very personally. And I started to look at that and think, well, yeah, maybe that's the way I behave. It's not that I am that way, but I behave that way. So I'm acting out of anger or self pity, or I want to be first. How come I'm not first? And it takes time. It really does take time, because you can be raised in anything, but it doesn't in any way and in good, but it doesn't mean that you're going to recognize what you are getting at the time.
Exactly.
At the time. It takes, yeah.
Yes, and I love this, because what you're saying is that sometimes your perception and your judgment from the ego part of your humanity, you are judging the person from who you are and what you do and what your beliefs are, but you don't know what that person's backpack carries.
Yep. Yep.
And that's one of the things, that's the second thing that I will say, that being in a Catholic religion helped me, because you when you go to Catholic schools, they teach you charity. They teach you compassion to the poor, compassion to the sick, to the elder.
Yeah.
So you kind of see that, and you don't put a filter of whether they are mean or not. That depends on your personality too. But I believe that it gives you, as an adult, a different way of thinking. This person, why is this person yelling at me if I'm not doing something wrong? I don't think it's about me. But it takes time to get there.
It does.
It
It's
takes,
their story also.
yeah,
It's a story that they tell themselves. We all tell ourselves a story about our lives. And we tell ourselves the story that we can most easily live with.
yeah,
We don't like to think about those aspects of our story that are not so nice, that are the shadow side, that are the dark side. And part of the work of living, and part of the work that I do, is to explore some of that, because, as we were saying earlier, with our accents being no accident, these are elemental, foundational bits of our lives that do show up in our story.
yes,
And our stories are not true. Our stories are based on truth. But and as you said earlier, we would not be the people we are today, the women we are today, unless we lived through the experiences that we did.
yeah,
And there's no point in going back and saying, well, if I had been born here, born there, married this or married that, you know, water under the bridge, that water is long gone.
yes,
So it's much more, it's useful. It's useful to say, what have I learned by being challenged, by being knocked down, by being lifted up? How has all of that, all of those experiences forged this woman right here, right now? And I'll share something quickly. A sister a sister texted me yesterday asking if I had some letters back from when she was going to school in Ireland, and I thought I did. And so I pulled out this ginormous Tupperware box. I mean, it's just ginormous, and it's packed full of letters and birthday cards, and letters and birthday cards, all from my brothers and sisters and from my parents who are now gone. And in the course of going through that, madly looking for these letters that she thought she sent, I came across photographs that I'd forgotten that I had. You know, photographs of me as a kid, in my young teenage years. They're just, stuck in there. I don't know. They're just stuck in there. And to sit back on the floor and look at the pictures of that growing up woman. Because I've been saying to myself, what happened to the girl that used to be me? Well, she's not gone anywhere. She might have a grandmother face, but she's not gone anywhere.
Yes.
And so I think these are very important messages that we're sharing, that you have a story, it's your story, it's a story, and it comes from all the ways in which you have been living to this moment.
And it's beautiful because it's unique to you. And it's only
Exactly.
it's your blueprint.
Yes. Yes, your story is as individual, as singular as your fingerprint. Nobody else in the whole wide world has your fingerprint. Nobody else in the whole wide world has your story or will ever have your story.
Yes.
And I think that's so critical because maybe you've heard this too. I don't have a story to tell. If I did have a story to tell, who'd want to listen to it? My story's kind of boring. Have you heard that? Because you talk with
I
people
told
across
you
the
this.
mic.
I'm like, I don't know if I have a story when we met. And you're like, you have a story.
Yeah. Yeah, we have many. We have many stories. Some probably not should be told, but we are made up of stories. It's how we connect with each other. It's how we relate to each other. As you said in the very beginning, you said, well, I wasn't in the military, and so I might not have had the same experience as you have. But because I was raised in the Catholic faith and there was a lot of strictness about it. And so now what we're doing is we're comparing our lives based on the metaphor of something that looks to be connected. The metaphor of the Catholic Church, the metaphor of the military, both of them we are chafing against a little bit. We respect what they offered to us, and we chafed against some of the rules that said you can't do this, you can't do that. We turned it around and said, yes, I can, watch me. And so that's what we're doing all the time.
Exactly.
And I really do believe that when we have that opportunity, then the love that you're talking about has a chance to be expressed, because it's not easy to be angry or hateful towards someone whose story you know.
Yeah.
Not always,
No,
but
not
most of the
always.
time.
And it takes training to realize that before you act, you breathe, you rehearse it in your head. Wait a minute, what was that was said to me, or what was this person doing, before you speak. And sometimes when you do these things, when you take the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you know, this, yes, and then you realize
100.
yes, then you realize, wait, I don't have to do anything. Sometimes, or the majority of the times, actually, you realize I don't have to respond to this. This is not my story.
There's a little piece, there's a post-it that I keep on the bottom of my computer monitor. It's blurred. So the top of it says, it's capital letters. It's WAIT, which is an acronym for Why Am I Talking? So I keep that there. And underneath that is, does it need to be said? Does it need to be said now? Does it need to be said by me? And so many times, my eye will catch that. Like, okay, I don't need to be a spring butt here. I don't need to be the voice in the room going, hey, 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 like Hermione Granger on Harry Potter, the one with all the answers. And as you say, being able to slow down the thought process and being able to slow down the responsiveness helps us in so many ways, because it gives a chance just to think about it. It gives a chance to come up with a question. It also gives a chance to just be quiet.
Yes, exactly. And then what you're saying, deciding whether it's going to be part of your story or you're going to let it be on that person's story, that is, it's it takes a lot, but
Yeah.
we all can do it.
Yeah.
If we talk about the stories and we talk about um, the strictness, but I would love to tackle this into something that is very important and beautiful, and is the origin of the story for women.
Oh, you're speaking to my heart.
Yes.
When I say origin story, what I mean is the story that reveals how we got from there to here. And depending on the purpose of the story and who we are sharing it with, that story will shift somewhat. So there will be what I call a platinum core to the origin story that reveals who you are as a person with values, what you stand for, what you won't stand for, what your accent is, and why it's no accident. And there are stories off of that main one that you can use for an example or to illustrate something. And again, depending on whether you're giving a presentation, you're speaking to an audience, a professional group, you're pitching an idea, you are sitting in front of someone as part of a job interview, you're at a crossroads in your professional life and you're seeking which way to go, you're interested in rewriting your narrative, it all comes together. And so that origin story is the place that says, okay, this is how I did it. This is how I got from there to here. And it doesn't have to be from the time you were in diapers to the present. The section of your life timeline that you use for your origin story really depends on what your purpose is. And for your own purposes, also, it gives you a sense of how you go from here to there. So it gives you a roadmap that says, okay, this is where I've been. This is how I got here. Where am I headed and how come? And the reason that the origin story is so important is because it helps you discover who you are. And I think it shows you the singular significance of your voice and how using your voice helps you to be seen and heard and understood and listened to.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Thank you.
That is
So
that is beautiful. I'm sorry. I had to interrupt you there because that is I love it. It made me like it warmed my heart when you said those
oh,
words.
good. I think it's a very important concept for women, especially, to get into their hearts, as you've said, because for various reasons, and it could be cultural, it could be political, it could be religious, it could be economic, women's position generally in the world is not on a par with men. And it hasn't been for the past 2000 years. And over time, gradually, we are claiming our voices again. We're not right up there where we should be. But each time we share our voice collectively with women, we share our stories, then I believe we are in a position to shift attitudes and behaviors and maybe even cultures. So if we can somewhat unbalance the status quo by our story, we have a chance of helping the women that are coming up behind us to have a better chance of being seen and heard and understood and listened to.
And this opens my mind to think about how many different ways throughout the history of humanity, women were, first of all, we were put aside.
Yeah.
And now we were quiet. We were like put to
Mm-hmm.
side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That we couldn't even vote.
Nope.
And in today's days, we are still struggling there, like you're saying. Women still make less than men
Mm-hmm.
in the same
Mm-hmm.
positions, in the same field. They
Mm-hmm.
make less money because you women get pregnant and they have to take care of their children too.
Mm-hmm.
They should get
Mm-hmm.
more money for that
Yes.
because they are taking care of a family and working. But
Yes.
it's true. When in corporate, it's very difficult for a woman to go up the ladder and be um, VP, CEO, etc. But when a woman is scaling up the ladder, there is always this gaslighting from the guy that wants her position or the guys that are there, that she's not good enough, that, you know, putting always things around the team. Um, it can be that she's a bully, that she is crazy, B, that, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
usually everything ends with being crazy. Women are crazy.
Yep. They're emotional. Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're too emotional. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you are quiet, you
Mm-hmm.
don't know. If you speak up, you're too emotional or you're
Mm-hmm.
crazy, you lost it.
Mm-hmm.
You're hormonal, things like that. So not only we have to go through the regular competition, but we also have to go through this gossiping around you to take you down. Hi, I'm very happy to know you are here watching our podcast today. It is an honor to be featuring so many entrepreneurs on the journeys of their inside voice, their accent that is not an accident. And we want to reach out more people like you who are creating a better world of diversity, inclusiveness, equity, and belonging. So please take a moment to hit the subscribe button below, like, and share to others. And even if you want to leave a comment, that'll be nice. Thank you for your support. And now back to the episode. And it's kind of like when I look at it from the story, it's like always is the same, trying to silence the woman. What do you think of that?
Well, number one, I think you're correct. And you're reflecting accurately what I believe many women have as their experience. If we could see all your listeners right now, you'd all be hearing them go, yeah, 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 that's my experience too. That's my experience. And as I said earlier, whether that is cultural or political or religious or economic, it has many roots that took hold millennia ago, so that the position of women in society was rarely elevated to a position of belonging. So the expectation was that we were less, we could do less, we weren't as smart, and figure out whatever it is that there's an old song, and from the stage play Annie Get Your Gun, and it's a back and forth between Annie and somebody else, and it's a humorous song, but the whole song goes, anything you can do, I can do better. Anything you can
Oh,
do, I
yes,
can
yes,
do better. And then there's the ratcheting up, I can do this, I can do that. And Phil Merman, who's singing the role of Annie, wins.
yes.
But it's that sense that women are not fill in the blank enough. And that still holds us back. And as you said, that gaslighting sense, that thing that makes women think that, wait a minute, is that really going on? It's making me feel crazy. And there
Yes.
is that spreading of stuff. And I don't know. We could talk from now until tomorrow about how come. And I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to the how come. I think there is a clue here. And one of the clues is that sometimes women are their own worst enemies. Sometimes we stand in our own way. Sometimes we disregard the collective of other women as cohorts and we see them as enemies instead of allies. Sometimes we stand in line, we wait our turn, we are quiet, we don't speak our minds, we don't share our ideas. And when we speak, we laugh, we speak with what I valley talk, as if we're at the end of our sentences, they go up and we're trying to tell somebody what we're saying and they can't follow up because we're doing this. So the good news is there are so many ways to turn things around. And one is to begin to practice our public speaking, practice sharing our ideas, our visions, our dreams, our goals in public in a way that says we are confident about what we're saying, speaking with conviction, because this is my idea. It's a good idea, and I want to get this idea across. And for those of us who stumble over our words, it's easy enough to jot some notes down before we speak. And it's also a good idea to practice saying something out loud and listening to how we sound before we make whatever presentation we're going to make. So the good news is that with our origin story, I'll take it all the way back, the origin story that shows us who we are, how we got from there to here, what challenges we've overcome, what we have accomplished, what we have achieved, how our singular story is our story and there's no other story like it in the whole wide world. Once we begin to discover that, to uncover, unearth that story, and then bring it into our hearts, we are changing ourselves, we're changing our lives. And when we connect on that basis with our audiences, with our corporate teammates, with whomever, then we're speaking from our heart. We are speaking as genuine women who are saying, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is what I won't stand for. And I'll say one more thing about that. How do you get to that point? Well, you work on an archaeological dig, and it's kind of fun because we are archaeologists. We're looking back at the past civilization of our life. And just like an archaeologist who's sifting through sand and whatever somewhere, we're looking for the pieces of our life that show up, the things that say, oh, I remember this. I had forgotten that as a kid, I liked to do that. Oh, here's an experience that I don't like to remember, but it taught me. It's a strong teaching. It was a strong teaching, and I've grown as a result of that. So when we do the archaeological dig on ourselves, with my help, we come up with those bits and pieces of our past civilization, and we look for the values that have always been there for us, those values that continue to run through our lives like a river, because those values show up in our why. What we do, why we do it, how come it matters. But that why comes after our who. Once we know who we are and we understand who we are and we're friends with who we are and our story, then our why makes a whole lot more sense. Okay, now I get that. Or if we're at a crossroads and our why isn't working, now I know where to go. My why fits me like old shoes. I need new shoes. I need a new why.
I know these. I think the way you explain this archaeological dig on
Yeah.
yourself, I love it
Mhm.
because it's just digging out what is there, previous generations, and what was the story of that
Yeah.
behind you. But not only this, you take it in such way that then you are moving the pieces,
Yeah.
not only to make this story, but to to seek and check what is your purpose.
Yes. Yes. So if I were to look at my values, I would say that there are three. One, we've already talked about this. I value, as you do, independence. I value independence deeply. I also value fairness. And so through all my life, through law and through nursing and through corporate and story, fairness, pushing back on injustice, that's huge to me. And I think the third value is adventure. And when I look at my life and the places that I've been lucky to go, I'm walking the Camino, backpacking across Europe as a 21-year-old before I showed up in the Navy. Adventure. And I I don't think I really would have named that as a value for myself early on. But looking back at all the ways in which I have explored the world, like you, moving from South America to US and all the other experiences that you've had. So knowing that about me helps inform my why, helps inform the work that I do so that women can use their voices to be seen and heard and understood and listened to, so that they can rewrite their narratives, so that they can show up as a strong, confident speaker with conviction. Now it makes sense. Now, all right, that's why it's important.
Yeah.
I want to help women be those independent, adventurous souls. But I also will also the work is listening out their values. I'm just taking mine and saying, now it makes sense. Now my why makes sense.
And and not only it helps you um, find your purpose and redefine what you want to do and what you're doing, but it also helps you redefine who you are. And then there is a shift. And there are a couple of things that you help shifting. Would you like to talk about those things that you help? Oop.
Is there one thing in particular that
Well,
you're
I was thinking about shifting your attitude, your culture.
oh yeah, that's big, especially in this day and age. So all around the world, we're troubled. The world is troubled. There's a lot of conflict, specifically right now in this country. There's an awful lot of conflict. I don't think we've ever not had conflict. But if we can know our story, know the dark side, know the bright side, know what we stand for, know what we won't stand for, then we are in a much better position to listen the stories out of others. And by listening the stories out of others, we then can better understand them. Not everyone. I mean, it's not, one size fits all, but the attempt to understand. And from that understanding comes a shift in the attitudes or perspectives that we have toward each other. So as you were saying earlier, if we feel slighted by someone or whatever, it's not us, it's their story. And can I understand them better? Because as you said, we're carrying baggage. So can I understand the place that person is coming from? Can I understand a little bit about where that person has walked in their shoes? Can I understand that? If there is a chance that by sharing our stories, we can shift attitudes so that we are more understanding of, compassionate toward each other, then we might be in a position to change behaviors, how we treat each other. Now, it would be lovely to unbalance the status quo and shift culture toward kindness and compassion and understanding and being seen and heard and listened to in my lifetime. But if we make an effort toward that, then we have a better chance of the world being a little bit better.
Yes.
And I have a way to do that.
Okay.
This is how world peace is going to happen. So I'm Polish, and Polish people are great cooks, and we love to eat. In fact, my father used to say, there are two kinds of people in the world, those who eat to live and those who live to eat. And my father was the live to eat kind, and I think I got his genes. So here's my idea. So we have block parties, and we can put out long tables. We can all sit on the stoop of our apartments, our houses. We can put tables together in the apartment courtyard. We can do it on the street, whatever. We're just going to have block parties, and we're going to set up big tables, and everybody's going to come, and they're going to bring a dish from their childhood, from their country. They're going to bring a dish that they really love. And I can think of a bazillion of them right now because I'm Polish. But you bring a dish from wherever you are, and you're going to share that dish. And along with that dish, you are going to be obviously, eating other people's dishes. But along with that dish, you have to bring a story about why that dish is important to you. What are the memories that it brings up? Where did you eat that dish? Was it a holiday dish? And who prepared it? Was it a grandmother? Was it an auntie? Was it a favorite neighbor? And so that's where world peace is going to come from, because people don't really argue when they're eating good food, unless you talk politics at Thanksgiving, but that's a whole nother deal. But that's my plan. That is my plan for world peace. We have block parties, we share food, and we share stories about what that food means to us. And there you go. That's my deal.
I think this is an absolutely great story, and especially because I'm biased because I'm from Colombia, and we do block parties no matter what day.
Okay.
We make a holiday of anything. So
and there you go. So you invite me to yours, I'll invite you to mine. We'll just get this thing started around the world. Yeah.
So to that, I have to tell you something. Was I remember of a story of my life, and we, like you're saying, we're all full of stories because it is unique, right? And we have different people that have been part of our lives in different times. And I grew up in Colombia. One day, we, as Catholic, the country is Catholic, so we celebrate the Immaculate Day, which is December the 8th. I believe December
Immaculate Conception, I think.
Yes, the conception. December 7th. Like I forgot. Yes. And that day we light up candles, and we light up the other thing that I cannot remember the word in English. Well,
like an incense burner?
It's the light up paper thingy. It's Chinese.
Oh, like lanterns. Paper lanterns? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We do everything in this podcast, charades too.
As long as we're having a good time, it all works. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we decided, my father had a wood factory, and It was cold. Bogota is cold, and this is at night. So it's called La Noche de las Velitas, the like candle night. So
Candlelight.
we decided to there is not prohibited to start fire like bonfire.
Mhm.
So we started a bonfire, and we're like in the parking lot. So everybody started bringing, all the neighbors started bringing. This is true. Like
Mhm.
Colombians will make a block party out of three kids wanting to be warm. That's the story. Everyone that started to arrive with their families, let's get out. So they brought something to drink, some other people something to eat. The whole entire neighborhood was just
Wow.
end up being there, and parents, children dancing around the bonfire, and it was beautiful. And we even met some new neighbors that had just moved in a couple of months from prior. So this is true,
Yes.
and this much happiness, and the idea of bringing together people for no
Mhm.
reason. In,
Mhm.
in this case, we did it it was by accident, but not really. It was not an accident. We had a great time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and my mother was here visiting my sister, and my father and I were by ourselves in the house. So my father ended up, when with the wood. That's why I brought him to the stories. The wood was finishing. He went ahead and called one of the boys and said, "Let's go. Let's get in the car. We're going to my factory, and we're going to bring more wood." And we were
Yeah.
there all night until like 7 in the morning.
That's a good story. That is a good story. And it's exactly what happens. And so often in at least in this country, people live in developments and they don't see one another. They pull their car into the garage, and it's not like that all over. I mean, there are places where people sit down on the front stoop or the porch and watch the traffic go by on the sidewalk. But all it takes, you said, in Bogota, you can make a party out of three children looking to get warm. And that's all it takes. It's just one person saying, you know what, let's get a couple people together and see what happens. And if there's just a couple people, great. But good things spread. Good things spread. And I think people want to be included in good things. Oftentimes they just don't know how to start. So if we can reach out and say, I got a bonfire. I need some people who could get warm, or I've got food. Let's just get together. And music. My sister and brother-in-law live in a small village in New Hampshire, and I always like looking at pictures because they've got a town like a green and there's a little shelter where the band is. But people will gather on that for different holidays and occasions, and there's singing. It's it's so community oriented, and I really do believe that that is what we are made for, is to be in some sort of connection as humans. And we're doing it right now. We're just sharing our stories. You're telling me about something from your childhood, and I'm sharing stories right back with you. And so now we know a little bit about each other. We have a different feeling, I believe, about each other than from when we first started. All that feeling was pretty good to begin with.
Yes.
But
And
this is how it works.
exactly, this is beautiful. I had forgotten about the block parties that you had mentioned before. And when you said block parties, I'm like, oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yes. And
So
that's how it
yeah,
works, isn't it? Somebody says something like, oh, wow. I hadn't thought about that in years.
Yes.
Oh, good. Let's do
I
something
will
about that. Go
I
ahead.
would love our audience to comment, to put in the comments about their block parties. How
Oh,
about
that
that?
would be great.
Yes. What are we gonna give them for free? If
What
they
are them? Well, I can give them my time. They can always dial me up on my website and we can have a Zoom call and I can listen to their story and give them some tips. Maybe we can share recipes. If you want some good recipes, I can do that. What other ideas do you have that your listeners might enjoy receiving, Maritza?
Okay, so let's say I will, for those who are seeking more visibility, I will hook you up with a top rank podcast that it matches your brand
Wow.
for an interview. How about that?
Okay. Let's see. Can I top that?
Yeah. Okay.
Um, let's see. Well, yeah, depending on who you are, if you have interest in podcasts that might be a little bit different than Maritza's, perhaps there is an opportunity for me to make introductions to you because human connection is what it's all about. But I think that the best thing that I offer, the thing that I'm really good at, is listening your story out of you and seeing what we can do in a short amount of time together to create a story, a short story that you can use,
Awesome.
especially when you go to your block party. Yeah, I think that would be it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Yay. So
A story for
comment
your
down.
block party. That I can do. And so on my website there is a link where you can set up a Calendly Zoom chat. I think right now it's called Discovery. It's called a Discovery chat, but I also refer to it as a coaching consult. But if you dial into that and say, I'm going to do a block party, just like you and Maritza talked about, and I'm going to bring this dish. And in the amount of time that we have together, I want to be able to walk away with a short story about why that dish is important and why I'm bringing it to the block party.
Awesome.
How's that?
Yes. I love
Okay, good. Okay.
I love this. Thank you. Thank you so
Well,
much.
you're welcome. Thanks for the great idea.
So let's see, did we talk about all our things, all our topics? I think we did. Yes, we did.
I believe you.
The ancient power of the stories healed and unite us. We
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
talk about how important is your origin story, where you come
Mm-hmm.
from,
Mm-hmm.
where it's here to there,
Mm-hmm.
and how it shapes you and it makes you go through this archaeological dig after you got,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and then you find out your purpose or your why, and then this why can change from time to time.
Exactly.
So you have
Yes,
to go and dig again. And to world peace, block parties.
that's right.
Amazing.
Yes,
So
thank you.
Diane, tell us how the audience can find you and where.
So my website is Quarter Moon Story Arts, and it's on as a quartermoonstoryarts.net. So the website has audio that you can listen to and things that there's a bonus that you can download. There every now and again a news audio letter that I produce. So the quartermoonstoryarts.net is a great place to see what I do and how I do it. My podcast is called Stories from Women Who Walk. And what I produce is 60-second episodes. So I've got about 1,100 episodes out on the air, and the episodes are designed to motivate and inspire. There's story prompts on Friday. So if you want to listen to examples of how you can take a story or a message and reduce it to 60, 90, 120 seconds, because brevity's levity, then that's a good way to do it. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I just created an account on Substack under Wyzga on Words. It's new. Not everything is dialed in, but that's just another place where I am.
Thank you so much, Diane Wyzga, for being today with us.
Oh, this has been a delight, Maritza. Thank you very much for your invitation and for sharing yourself in such a warm and wonderful way with all of us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Diane. And is there a last thought that you would like to leave the audience with?
You're not going to cross the ocean by standing on the shore and looking at the horizon. So no matter what it is, if you want to know what you're capable of, you got to go. The only way you'll know is to go. So whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're dreaming about, whatever you're what-ifing about, whatever you're imagining about, give it a go.
Thank you so much again. And thank you, our audience, for being with us today. And remember, we are here because we were loved. A creative force, the source, God, the universe loved us and placed us here to be loved and love one another. Till next time.
Amen.
Hi, it's Maritza here. If you like this episode of My Accent is No Accident podcast and would like to listen more like this, subscribe wherever you're listening to it or watching it. Leave us a nice review and share with your friends, family, and network. Thanks for listening.